Those inequalities are legal, educational, economic, and resource-based, where Māori have been stripped of land and the ability to create wealth. We've talked about how the bill has been purported as helping to encourage equality. I suppose my thinking is that when we talk about equality, we ask, is it the equality of input or the equality of outcomes? And I'd like to now turn more towards an educational perspective. So Māori Kura, we need equality of outcomes, because as we've heard from other panellists, and I will support the fact that Māori Kura do not receive equality in New Zealand. And to achieve this, we need differentiated inputs. The one-size-fits-all approach does not address the historical and ongoing disparities faced by Māori. True equality means acknowledging past injustices and actively working to remove the systematic barriers that continue to disadvantage Māori in education, health, and economic participation. I offer the following examples of educational inequality experienced by Ngāti Awa. So the history of our kura te kura o te Paroa reflects the broader inequalities of Māori across New Zealand. Our kura began as a native school. It was asked for by our tupuna. They requested it of the Ministry of Education in 1893. Unlike other state schools that were created at the time, native schools were required to provide 5 acres for the school. They were required to build the school buildings, and they were also required to build the schoolhouse. This was not the same for a state school. And in a time when Ngāti Awa had been the victims, I suppose, of colonisation, we had experienced land confiscation and extreme economic hardship that came with it. They still wanted to build a school so that their descendants could experience equality. It was a beginning of our school that is now 133 years old. We have been a native school, we have been a state school, and recently we have become a kura mana motuhake. And the way that this was able to happen was through persistent advocacy of Māori, ongoing demands for the recognition of Article 2 of the treaty, and because we wanted to reclaim Māori educational authority. So in 2013, our kura became a kura mana motuhake, securing the right to determine its own educational pathway. However, our kura feels that the Treaty Principles Bill threatens this progress by undermining Māori rights to maintain and develop culturally responsive education spaces. Currently, the number of kura kaipapa, the number of kura mana motuhake, the number of kura a-iwi has stagnated. We have not increased the numbers of kura that are available for Māori tamariki to access, even though it has been shown that these kura are the pathways to success for Māori tamariki. I'd like to turn towards the bill's threat to Māori educational authority. So the Treaty Principles Bill aims to redefine the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi, shifting away from well-established principles of partnership and protection for Māori. The kura o te Paroa is strongly opposed to this bill, as it threatens the very foundation of Māori education and the autonomy of kura Māori. There is a disregard for Māori sovereignty and mana motuhake. So as I mentioned before, kura Māori emerged as a direct response to the systematic marginalisation of te reo Māori and Māori knowledge within the mainstream education system. The bill's approach disregards this history and seeks to impose political neutrality on kura Māori, contradicting this very purpose. Previous to the hikoi, I received a bulletin from the Ministry of Education reminding all schools that they were to remain neutral in the time of the hikoi. I found that really ironic, considering that kura Māori have been born out of political activism. And even though we are part of the government system, the reason that we came into being was because of a political movement. So I found that the silencing of Māori voices was something that I could not actually stomach. So there is an importance of te reo Māori in education, and this is because of the loss of te reo Māori in New Zealand. So that loss was actually because of the education system. It was not a choice that was made by Māori, it was a consequence of colonial assimilation policies in education. So the survival and the revitalisation of te reo Māori is essential for the survival of the Māori people. Māori parents choose our kura because they want their children to learn in an environment where their identity is celebrated, their language and culture is nurtured, and te reo Māori is important as a vehicle to learning. So the bill's redefinition of the treaty principles threatens the integrity of our kura and the wider Māori education system. There is a contradiction, and I've heard that earlier with Claire Charters. She was talking about...
Erin, sorry to interrupt, but we'll ask you to bring your submission to a conclusion because we are now over time, so I'll invite you to just provide some closing comments.
Okay, so I'd like to also make a support Claire Charters' submission around using the United Nations rights of the Indigenous peoples. I think that that is part of what we need to be supporting in New Zealand. It affirms the rights of Indigenous people. I have a couple, I suppose I might as well just close with, in closing, we make the following recommendations: that we oppose the Treaty Principles Bill, that we ensure Te Tiriti o Waitangi is the foundation for decision-making in New Zealand, and that we uphold Māori autonomy in education.
Kia ora, and thank you for your submission this afternoon. We do appreciate you jumping up and filling the gap as well, and just want to acknowledge your submission on behalf of the
Okay, that was a very interesting submission about how Kura's started and how they've gone through every single one of the iterations of how it's gone through the history of their operations and how it could be completely all brought into a halt thanks to the bill.
Yeah, I found that really interesting, Sam. I mean, I think it's pretty clear there that Māori language is really under threat through the changes in this bill, particularly in the education space, and really institutions like Kura Kaupapa Māori are really at the forefront of revitalising Māori language and changes to the principles of te tiriti are really undermining the revitalisation of not only the Māori language but also how that plays through in the education setting. So I found that a really interesting submission and really well thought through. So yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, good start to the show. Oh, let's get to some more nitty gritty now. Just to let you know, the order that stuff, how it's ended up into how it was meant to end up in, it would basically it threw the order out of whack. So now we're getting back into how it should be. So let's.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok.